Hi everyone, the too long didn't watch of this video is that we have a Kickstarter for Obituary, a supernatural comedic coming-of-age comic about a teenager raised by ghosts that I've been writing with my sister Zara. The Kickstarter is live, and the link is in the description and pinned comment. But for a more in-depth explanation for what I'm talking about, well, that's what the rest of this video is for. So some of you may recall back in 2016, I uploaded a video on this very channel called Obituary, A Grave Beginning. This was a huge gamble for the channel because admittedly, it wasn't like anything I had put out on Belated before. It was original, it wasn't about movies at all, and it was something that my sister Zara and I had written and self-funded in collaboration with the very talented folks at Studio Yada and enlisted friends to provide their voices. And people liked it. In fact, it's the most viewed video on Belated Media by a substantial margin. And yes, I am working with my therapist on deriving self-worth from external metrics, but these higher numbers certainly helped show interest when approaching and eventually taking meetings with Nickelodeon, Disney, Cartoon Network, DreamWorks Animation, Illumination, and several other notable studios. Now, this wasn't a situation where we posted Obituary online and we just magically got development opportunities. We had to leverage friendships and existing connections to get in all those doors, as Zara and I didn't, and still don't, have any representation. And so if there are any managers watching, hi, please reach out. Now, I hope you'll forgive me, but while I will be going into some details about these meetings, I will not be naming the companies or their executives. Some of these recounts are positive, some less so, but all of them got us here today. Our first pitch meeting we got through a roundabout connection through Zara's undergraduate program, and it was beyond intimidating because it was one of those big name studios that I mentioned up top, and it was only intensified by our meeting taking place in this very cavernous, high-ceiling boardroom intended for like 20-something people, except it was just me, Zara, seated across from a junior development exec. We had our slides ready to go on our laptop. We also had a leave behind, and after some brief pleasantries, we launched into our pitch. And it was going pretty well until about 3 minutes in, I noticed that the exec seemed really confused, which was our first lesson. Never assume that the person you're pitching to has reviewed the materials you've sent over. Always ask. We managed to regain our footing somewhat, and they did ask for us to send over additional materials. But on March 22nd of 2017, we heard back. Thanks for your patience as we have made a final decision on Obituary. Unfortunately, we are unable to take on your project into development as we do not feel it is the best fit tonally for Redacted. In addition, we connected the least with your protagonist, June. The other characters felt a bit more active and had more defined personalities. Thanks again for sharing this project with me. Let me know if you have any questions. We wish you the best for Obituary and beyond. And this was the first, but not the last time that we would hear that June was undefined, and that prompted several rewrites on our part. At another meeting where we were being considered as writers, an executive very graciously gave us several notes on Spectre Elector, an episode where June runs for school election. They highlighted various points where June could have been more active and provided thoughts on what could drive beyond the plot for her character. We love any time that a producer or exec really wants to get into the weeds like that with us, and as a result, we improved her agency throughout our writing and tried to more clearly define her traits and values of striving for fairness, challenging norms, and being an empathetic and thoughtful person. We pitched throughout 2017 and 2018. Sometimes we got multiple calls before the trail ran cold. Other times we got direct rejections. In some cases, progress was cut short when the person we were speaking to got promoted and their replacement was just uninterested in what we had. In other instances, and I suppose fittingly given the subject matter, we were just ghosted. In all cases, it was a lot of passes, but we were never really discouraged. We refined our pitch pack. We changed up the slides. We were getting a better sense of the characters, the world, what everything stood for. Even if we were going to be getting a no, and we got a lot of them, we felt we were ready for any questions that we would get in the room. Anything except this one question that we got that knocked me so off kilter. But first, I need to set the scene a little bit more. So I had gone to a general meeting at a studio where we had already pitched. Now, I had falsely made the assumption that if a person at the studio passed, that project was like internally known. So I walked into this thinking that they already knew about the project. So when I was talking through my biography, I just really quickly said, oh, so my sister and I, we co-wrote and produced this animated micro pilot about a teen raised by ghosts. And that was like all I said. But the exec there was like, wait. back up, walked both of us into another room to meet with a different exec who was the head of development and had me give this sort of impromptu pitch. And then from there, we set a meeting to meet with the entire development team. It was like, honest to God, very wild. So we're now in our second development meeting, I believe, and we'd gone through all of our character sheets and we're now fielding questions. Zara and I know our characters inside and out, so this feels like a breeze as we're just deftly answering. We're getting some laughs or getting nods in the room. Things are feeling really good. And then one development exec in the back asks this gem of a question. Do they have to be ghosts? And do they have to be ghosts? I mean, it's a show about a girl raised by ghosts. Of course they have to be ghosts. In that moment, I fumbled through a confused, stuttering answer, searching for footing. I might have joked that, well, it wouldn't work if they were monsters, but the question actually wasn't and isn't, do they have to be ghosts? When I reflected on it more, there's a missing element in that question, and it's why do they have to be ghosts? What are you trying to say, and how do ghosts heighten that? In our case, thematically, the show is about identity and a kid finding her place in the world, starting in high school. Our main character, June, and her classmates are looking to the future, which is fine on its own, but by adding ghosts, you're able to explore the past and identity in a completely different way. You're able to ask deeper questions like, do my past actions set who I am forever? And then there's this potential for a synergistic feedback loop as generations inform each other. So the answer to the question, do they have to be ghosts, is yes. And then it's your job as a creative to explain why. Since then, with every project I'm working on, I try to figure out what the ghosts of the project is and how they're in fact necessary. That is not something that you'll always find. It wasn't something that we initially thought our story in Obituary was about, but it was something that was always percolating in the background of everything that we were writing, and it took us that question to make us realize it. Beyond that meeting providing the pivotal ghost question, it also resulted in a meaningful conversation in the parking lot afterwards, which led to another question. What if we did this ourselves? We had spent 2 years with Obituary since the pilot launch. It was still something that we wanted to do, and it was still a story that we wanted to tell because, full disclosure, we had loosely mapped out 4 seasons of arcs for this thing. Certainly not every episode, but we knew where things were headed, and when the pilot was released, we had actually written out 10 of our 12 episodes for what we were considering like our first season. We had all these scripts. It felt like a waste to have people having seen the pilot, but then not getting to meet Dr. Marloon, the Faceless Abomination, or Beep Boop the Party Robot. And that is why I love my sister, because while I have a handful of skills, I personally don't consider myself to be the best of artists, but Zara is. So what if we tried our hand at Obituary in a different medium? Growing up, we had always read a lot of the funny pages. I had countless books of Calvin and Hobbes, The Far Side, Garfield, Foxtrot, and Peanuts. And so we started telling these smaller one-off obit stories on our blog, obituarycartoon.com. These were short 3 or 4 panel comics that served as a warm-up. And while Zara and I were drafting those, we were also simultaneously working on Home Ectoplasm, our first adaptation of a full episode of Obituary in comic form. And over time, we came to find a rhythm where I would customarily break the scripts down, provide a chicken scratch layout, and then Zara would sketch everything out, finesse some of those expressions or poses, and then once the lines were in, I'd go in for color. It only made sense then, if we were posting on the web, to start uploading them to Webtoon. And we saw that, hey, people do want to keep reading this story. However, a link to a website is fine, but wouldn't it be nice if we had something tangible, something that could be dropped on a desk? So we printed Obituary Volume 1. And for 2 siblings who have never really, taken a crack at this sort of thing, we did really well. But the one thing that I failed to realize was that 750 comics, each weighing approximately a pound, they take up a lot of space. So if you've ever ordered a comic from us, thank you for allowing me to have more of my bedroom closet back. There were a lot of these. There were a lot of these in my room. There are far less now. It's nice to have your own space. The other thing that helped in lightening my bedroom has been conventions. And what has always surprised us, at every single convention we've been to, there has always been at least one person that has come up to our booth, looked at the comic, and said, this looks really familiar to something I saw on YouTube. And then they're elated when we're like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's the continuation of the story. It's just wild how far that pilot has gone. So that brings us to today. Yes, there have been a lot of changes in our respective lives, job moves, relationship changes, but Obituary has been the constant. We've streamlined a lot of our processes. We have more dynamic frames, are better at handling crowd shots, know how to actually use smart objects and clipping masks. And so now we have Obituary's second volume and its Kickstarter. Since we've printed multiple times, we're confident in our ability to deliver a stellar product, and Kickstarter offers us a clear sense of demand to fulfillment. We've gone through countless paper samples, and I'm really pleased with how this book will look and feel, with over 100 pages of vivid color, containing our 3 most recent stories, For Rest in Peace, Inspector Hector, and Parent-Teacher Conference. Beyond offering a bundle with Volume 1, you can have your name featured in the book in print or appear on a tombstone, and there are a haunted handful of other options. As I've mentioned, the Kickstarter is live now, and as of this recording, it will run until the end of the month of March 2025. If we reach our funding goal, hooray! We get to print more books. If not, I will take it a little too personally, but eventually get over it. So, if you're interested in checking out the Kickstarter to get yourself a book, the link is in the description and pinned comment. Sharing the link to the Kickstarter is also widely encouraged and welcomed. And if you share the link with our hashtag Ghostly giveaway, you could win a free Obituary shirt from our Dashery store. No purchase necessary, just another way to give back to the community that supported the story for so long. Thanks again for your support and listening to Obituary's journey thus far. It really means a lot. Thanks all.